when we get these students from some of these major white institutions in the engineering and mathematics field or curriculum, most of them are not African Americans in predominantly white schools. You may get maybe your 5%, and that's it.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure at those PWIs, they are some African Americans that attend, and maybe just having a conversation with the HR department, say, hey, have you ever considered diversifying your pool of candidates and making sure that everyone is being presented with this opportunity? Where are these candidates being sourced from that keeps attending these schools? Because I mean, this opportunity, because English is not their first language, but it seems like only those candidates are being selected. Why is that? If you feel comfortable asking that question.
Mhm.
Interesting, interesting. I want to get back to something you said earlier, and you were talking about where did your name come from. You asked me that question earlier, and I said, I I read something about it was a protector or conqueror or something like that, but I didn't have a lot to say. But since then, I looked it up. Okay,
Okay.
and it says the name William, a name of kings and conquerors. You got that, Craig? All right. William is a powerful and popular boy's name, first introduced to England by William the Conqueror in 1066. The name has stood the test of time and remains fashionable throughout the English speaking world. Despite this, William is actually a German origin, derives from Germanic Wilhelm, Wilhelm, all right, whose roots okay, in parentheses, desire, on helm, helmet, protection, combined to mean a resolute protector, a bold meaning that will mark a baby as a defender of the vulnerable. My mom was pretty smart, huh, Kate?
Hmm.
I guess, yes, she was.
All right.
I can't say the same for the recipients, but she
Lord
was a
help us.
So
Uh,
you said your mom named
our
you?
mom, our mom. Yeah.
yes.
Oh, okay. Yes,
He
y'all
is
are brothers.
also my blood brother as well as
Yes.
yes.
So she by herself in naming you, or did your grandmother
Well,
help?
actually, my dad's name was William. Also.
Okay. But
Okay.
you're not a junior.
No, no.
Okay.
I'm glad. As a matter of fact, I never wanted that. I'm so glad because my dad's middle name and my middle name are different, right? And I'm so glad that he shouldn't name me Junior because to me, and I'm not trying to offend anyone, but the word Junior has a certain connotation to it as far as I'm concerned. I mean,
Really?
mentally, it does. Junior, no, that because to me, junior means that you don't ever grow up. Oh God, I know
Hmm.
I offended some people out there. I mean, but it just certain words have certain meanings, and the word junior to me really has that connotation, like you never really grow up, and I know
But
that's not
that's the
true.
name. That's the name story. That's the name story. That's who you are, who you identify as. It could be a further explanation about that. It could be this is a tradition within our family that we're named after each other to carry on the legacy of this
Right.
name. That could be another definition for that as well. But everyone has their own perspective on how a
Yes,
name should be.
and I tell you, based on your educational background, I'm sure that mental health is something. Is that something that you deal with? I'm sure you deal with it on an everyday basis, but professionally, is that something that you really looked into, or something you study, or something you counsel on, or things like that? Because, like I said, certain names, will affect people, or certain words will affect people differently, and
Mhm.
sometimes not so positive. I mean, for instance, let's talk about hiring, for instance. There are a lot of jobs that if someone has an African name, you may not get the application. I mean, you may not get the position, depending on what company that you've applied to. There was a study that I read about that there were candidates that they applied, or someone told us about this. They applied using uh, American names and they applied using African names. They got the calls back when they used the American name. Is that
Right,
something?
and that's what I was mentioning earlier. I said even for me with my name, I would interview for a position, and then when I came for the in-person interview, they realized they was like, "Wait a minute, you're black." I could
Mhm.
tell by their gesture, their posture, in meeting me, I was not the person that they expected based on my name. But yes, unfortunately, in some cases, society does do that and discriminate against people due to their name. But I think that as a society, we have evolved somewhat with adjusting, to our culture, Black people's culture, in our creative way of how we name our children.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think that, and that's the um, problem there. I think because a mom or a mother or father should be able to name their children whatever they want to name, if it is of an African origin or Hispanic origin or whatever it is. It seems like to me that everyone should be treated based on their merits, on their education, on their experience versus their names. Someone else jump in. Robert, you have to say anything about that, or Tiffany, or Craig, or Clayton? Because I'm sure all of us have witnessed that. We even maybe have experienced that. We know someone who's gone through that, uh, and I think that's not right.
Yeah, I
Real,
think.
real. Oh, I was
Excuse
gonna
me. I'm
say
sorry,
real.
sister. Go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry. I was just gonna say real quick. Another reason why I feel like society kind of is evolving is, we just had a president named Barack Obama. So
Yes.
that was a significant change in society that we all had to adjust, and it allowed people to kind of give that candidate a second look that has an interesting name. So I just
Hmm.
wanted to throw that in. But go
Right.
ahead. I'm
Right.
sorry, Clayton.
No, go
No,
ahead, Clay.
that's fine. Thank you, sister. Uh, Speaking of names, I was one when I was growing up. I did not like my name and did not know the origin of my name. And I just recently looked it up as well. It's a British name. It comes from the Old English names of that lineage, and it means clay soil. And it's a grounded type of. It's supposed to be a strong name.
Hmm.
But one of the things when I was growing up, I wanted a common name just like everybody else. Just wanted to fit in because I was more of an introvert anyway. So a lot of people had those names like William and the strong names like Robert. I wanted to have those type of names, but I found to love my name as I grew older because that's what I was given. I had to get over it, get used to it. But on another note, some of the names that are given out to some of the young people nowadays, I don't know how they I don't know how they hold their heads up out in public. You know, their parents gave them something that why do they go about making up these names and sticking these names on their children and having them to deal with this for the rest of their lives?
Right.
It can make them shy away from things. They don't they don't have the confidence as some of the other people. So I can see how mentally and spiritually that could weigh on those children or even adults.
Hmm.
And it could make them feel a certain kind of way as they grow older.
Right. Okay. Before you answer that, sister, now would you like to tell the panel who gave you that name? We're waiting.
Who, me or
No, I'm
Clayton?
talking about Clayton.
Oh,
Well, yes,
Uh huh.
he wants credit for everything.
Credit. Oh my
It just
God.
so happened to be my brother.
Uh
He is
huh.
my oldest brother,
Uh huh. And
William A. Brown.
that's it.
I'm gonna give you your flowers, brother.
Oh,
So
okay.
hold on for a minute
I'm waiting.
because everything about me I owe it to him.
oh,
Are you being sarcastic right
Yes,
now?
I am.
You need to send all your bills by here too, for he can pay.
That's the next thing, brother. I'm gonna send him my bills and my car note, my
oh man.
mortgage. But anyway, he is my oldest brother. I love him dearly. I followed in his footsteps for a long time. And when I had a chance to break free, I ran. So, but I happened to play his groove because the fact is,
Mhm.
I saw what he was doing with groove, and that was the catalyst for me to become a groove.
Mhm.
I spent 24 years in the United States Air Force, and I retired. I'm a graphic artist. I have 2 master degrees as well. But I said that to say this: nothing would take the place of the love that I have for my siblings, including my sister who is online, Emma, my brothers, all the way down from William to Emil to Barrett to Roderick to Daniel to Myra. I learned a lot from each and every one of them. So the names that were given to them, I wanted to be take a little bit from each one of them because I'm trying to find my way. And my name kind of took me through a certain path. Some
Mhm.
people was giving me a pass because of my name. Some people was looking at me like, who is he? But I'm trying to tie this into what you were saying, the diversity and equity and inclusion. When they say that name Clayton now, I want it to be something that would carry respect.
Mhm.
That's what I'm trying to get to.
You know, with everything you said, I appreciate that. No, actually, I do take credit for giving him his name because I did, but that's not the point. I didn't know what it meant um, because we were very young at that time, and my mom says, you know, boy Clayton home and says we got to give him a name, and I had heard this name in school, and it was Clayton. I said, and I didn't know anyone. There was one cat in school who was named Clayton, and I thought it was the coolest name. I said, Mom, what's your name Clayton? She said, Yeah, I like that. And that's where it came from. But I didn't know the meaning behind it. But to me, it was unique and it was cool. And I had no idea up until recently. He told me this before. He said, Man, before we even got into this conversation, we're going back a few months or so ago, or maybe even longer, maybe a year or so. He said, Man, never liked my name because we was joking around. I said, I gave you that name. Yeah, man, you said, Man, growing up, I hated my name. I had no idea that he hated his name.
And he gave it to me.
Oh,
You can see the strain that he put on my life.
Are we good now? Are we good now? Because my memory is great, and I think I just heard you said you learned to love your name. So are we good?
We are good.
All right then. All right, let's go back to the professional because again, and I understand what you do in your job. And see, this is really deep, folks, because we have no idea. We have no idea on what we say to others make a difference. Someone can say something, and perhaps you can tell a story or two, Sister Rose, about someone who, from a different background or ethnicity or whatever it is, education, they will say something to someone from a different background, different ethnicity, and they might not know how what they're saying to that person can affect that person. There are certain people that you can say, for instance, Clayton and I can say certain things among each other. But if somebody else said that to us, it could be and would be offensive because they don't know, I don't know where they're coming from.
Right.
You see, I want to talk about a little bit how words matter. And Tiffany can jump in on this because with her passion and with her experiences, and her profession, she deals with words. She's deal with people speaking. She deals with emotions on a certain level, fiction or nonfiction on what she does. But I want you to address this. How important is and what is the responsibility of a company or someone in your position to kind of educate people? That's why I think these programs, you guys, if you go and talk about DEI or you going from a human resource and you put on these programs that want to make sure that everyone is inclusive. Is there a talk about the types of things or the way that you would address one employee to another, or how to? Sister Rose?
Oh, I thought you were waiting for Tiffany because you asked
Oh,
Tiffany.
I'm sorry, Tiffany. No, I had mentioned Sister Tiffany, and she can jump in next. But
Oh, okay.
let's talk about words matter.
Mhm.
Words matter. And so, do you address that, or how we should communicate with, uh, say, I was an employee, or we are employees? Would you talk about address the matter, or how we should address one another in the workplace? Some people may say something they may not think that's offensive, but
Right.
it would be, or it could be. Is there an education behind that in what you do at the workplace?
Yeah, so that was the whole point of the talent equity partners starting at the job. It derived from conversations that took place or forums that took place after George Floyd died,
Hmm.
because it was a little awkward being in the workplace and having to deal with that, and everyone kind of felt like they needed to walk on eggshells. But
Mm.
through identity work and then just conversations and understanding racism and um, different biases that people carry unconsciously sometimes, it can kind of make its way or filter into the professional aspect. And it may not be on purpose, but those are things that needs to be addressed to make sure that everyone is treated equally and we are inclusive of everyone's backgrounds and professional backgrounds as well. So that's the most important aspect. I know you mentioned something about mental health earlier, and I don't deal directly with mental health, but there's people in every aspect that has mental health issues or concerns that may need to be diagnosed or undiagnosed, but it's up to us to be accommodative to their needs, and hopefully they get those any issues addressed if needed. But that's not my forte per se. But my job does provide opportunities for any employee to address their mental health needs.
Mm. And the reason why I asked that is then Sister Tiffany jumped right on in. The reason why I asked that because when you mentioned the George Floyd incident and how, and I was really amazed at this and how that affected your employees. And I said, whoa, it's unbelievable because you're right. People were stuck inside. A lot of places shut down, including your churches, and some of those churches needed to be shut down anyway. But anyway, that's another whole story. Yeah, you can have some churches out here, I believe, that do more harm than they do good, especially when you talk about these prosperity preachers. And the reason why I say that because they said you put your money in here and it's going to come back a hundredfold, and people will put their they got rent due and they are so desperate they will put their and I'm gonna give you a little story, a true story about this, because I had an employee at a former place that I worked, uh, and so and they will put their last dime in, and so can you imagine you are really believing this so-called prophet or whoever he is, you put your last dime into something. It's just like anything in life, and you take a gamble on that, believing that it's going to come back and it doesn't. Well,
Mhm.
now you're more devastated than you were before you started that process or did this thing.
Mhm.
So people have to understand, look, we have to go on something that's solid. We have to believe in one another. I mean, but not believe in the truth, okay? And not go along with some charlatans because so many people out here will deceive you. They will take advantage of you. But anyway, I'm going to get off of that and I'm going to go straight to Tiffany, like I said. And do you want to address that before we go to Tiffany? Rose?
Oh, me address it? Um, no, I mean, I think that there's always going to be barriers wherever you go. It's just having those coping mechanisms, using the opportunities that's available to you. Hopefully, everyone's place of work has those opportunities available to them. I know that when George Floyd incident occurred, my job opened up counseling services for anyone who may need it,
Hmm.
because it was a very hard thing to process and understand, reasons why they may have triggered some feelings of what other loved ones have experienced, or even they have experienced themselves. Um, so yeah, I think that the coping mechanism is the most transparent. I guess transparent thing that I could talk about right now is coping mechanisms, because everyone has their own right in how they deal with things or how they express themselves.
Mhm.
And that can affect you in numerous ways, whether in work or your personal relationships. If you're going through something and trying to process it and you are having a hard time to process it, you should seek out counseling.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Tiffany?
Yes. So my question would be, have you ever personally um, had to deal with, as far as in the workplace, any type of racial issues, or have you seen another employee have to deal with any type of racial issues or words that were said?
Absolutely. um, and let's see, I don't want to put the people out, but in a previous place that I worked for, it was a university. I feel like they hired me as a token black girl, and it became even more evident as to where I was placed,
Mhm.
my assignment. Um, Through my assignment, through my work that I was doing, I discovered some unsatisfactory business practices, I'll put it that way, with the students that we were dealing with. And I said something to my coworker, my other coworkers, and I said, "Hey, I noticed, this issue occurring over and over again, and I feel like these students are being misled on the programs that they should be selecting, and just the opportunities that they should have." And she used the same format of how I discovered those, and she ended up seeing some as well. So we met, with the vice president at the time of that school, and we were able to rectify it. My boss at the time was not happy because we did not go to her first. But actually, we did go to her first, and she ignored us. And we went to the VP, so she was not happy, and she thought that it was me that reported the issue, but it was actually my coworker that reported it. So as a result, now I was being scrutinized for every little thing that I
Mhm.
did. I mean, to the point where I had to say I responded to such and such at 11:54 a.m. on this date, just to say that I did a project. And it went on like that for several weeks until she realized it was my coworker that actually reported. And she ended up getting written up because it was retaliation against essentially us being a whistleblower.
Mm.
So she did get written up, and that was basically undercover racism, if you want to say, that I endured. Um, and that was hard. It was a good lesson to learn and what to look for, and making sure that one, I document everything. So that definitely helped me really young in my professional life, and also making sure that when I do speak with people, I follow up with an email,
Mhm.
so that this is what the person said, this is what I said, and there's no confusion. It's clear and concise information. So that is something that I learned from that. I believe that every experience that you incur should be a learning lesson.
Right,
Whether
right,
it's positive or negative, you need to have learned something from it.
right. Sister Rose, then we're gonna go to Craig Clayton and then back to Robert. Um, my experience. Give me an example dealing with HR, and I think that HR department is only as good as the head of the organization. And I'm going to tell you why I say so. Some people have a bad connotation or bad feeling about human resources. And it sounds like you run a really good department. It sounds like that. My experience with that was that HR worked for, they were really pro company, and they advertise as pro employee. But in so many places, it's not like that at all. HR has to be the one, like the enforcer, that does the dirty work that the company wants done. And my experience in a particular situation, that I knew I was right. I knew I was right. Give an example. I was working for a major firm. Major firm. You know, I think I mentioned to you I was a former stockbroker, but I'm still a licensed financial advisor and an insurance broker. And I worked for this company, and I reported my boss, and they found a way to retaliate. They found a way to retaliate because he was wrong. He was wrong about a certain situation. I knew it. And the thing about it was, I had more credentials and more licenses than my boss did. So I called him out on something, and I knew I was right about it. And I reported him. Well, come find out. And I ended up that year, I was broker of the year. Okay. And I'm the only black professional in that department. And it was 20 of us brokers. The following year, I had also qualified to be broker of the year. And I'm sitting at the table, and I'm waiting for my award. This is the second year in a row. Okay, I'm really cool. And there was a $2,000 bonus, a paid vacation, and this beautiful plaque, right? Crystal plaque. And I'm sitting right next to the podium, at the top of the table. Okay, and I knew I was gonna get my award. And so when they named it, and said, "Now, broker of the year," I am halfway out of my chair. And he said, "Maria Garcia." I said, "Oh my God." I had to sit right back down. And the numbers were on my side by at least 25%. And he turned to me in front of the entire crowd and says, "Well, actually, William, your numbers were higher." But in so many words, and I'm paraphrasing right now, but we graded this on the curve. You were here 3 months longer than her. Both of us had been there for over a year and a half. And that that was not, I'm looking at him, and after the meeting, everyone came to me and says, "William, we knew you had won this because they put out weekly reports of production." And I was absolutely crushed behind that. Okay. And then he did something else. Now, I didn't report him for that, but he did something else that I reported him from. And while I was on vacation, I got fired. And the reason why I got fired is because I didn't return a client's phone call while I was on vacation. Can anybody make sense to that to me? While I was on vacation. Okay. Now,
In such a word and paraphrase, no.
Well, Craig on Friday, got fired on his day off.
you
Craig on the program Friday.
The movie Friday.
Movie.
Movie Friday.
Fired on his day off. Not this Craig.
He did.
I'm spot for that. They wouldn't fire me.
Yeah, but that's a movie. I'm talking about real life, brother.
Mm-hmm.
When I had worked for this, I understand that. But I got fired while I was on vacation. Now, so if you go on vacation, the rules were, Sister Rose, if you go on vacation, you leave contact information. So if your clients call your number, they have someone else they can speak to that's in your place. Not only did I leave one number, I left two. I left one for my personal assistant and also another broker that was qualified to handle any situation. But this is the reason why I was fired. And so HR didn't help me. They refused to help me. So that's why I say the HR department is only as good as the top.
Mhm.
You know,
It
you have
is.
some, I'm sorry, go on, sister,
No,
please.
I was gonna say it sounds like there was something going on, like they was cooking up a whole story over over here with dealing with your situation, and it was definitely unfair. And you should have fought it with your firing, um, because it was not fair. You definitely would have had a case. But in some aspects, yes, with HR, it's like the enforcer of whatever organization or company that you have. But HR protects the employees as well to a certain degree, but also protects the organization or company as well.
Mhm.
If you are providing substantial evidence of something changing, I don't know if you had like a labor relations office or anything to
No.
talk through whatever your issues were. No.
No. All we had it was a financial institution. All we had was the HR department. That's all we had. But to answer your question, I did fight it.
Okay.
I did fight it. I filed a lawsuit, and wouldn't you have it, the company filed for bankruptcy and went into receivership. They went into receivership. It's a
Well,
whole other story.
you told them they're gonna learn today. That's what you said, and
They
and
went
they
in.
will never do it
Okay,
again.
no, I didn't. No, I didn't win the lawsuit, but they went in
Right.
receivership, and so the case got quashed because after they came out of receivership, it was a statute of limitations.
Hmm.
So guess what? The thing about this is, I can't, and will not cry over spilt milk, because then that led to other opportunities, which leads to other opportunities, which leads
Exactly.
us here today.
Yep. But now I did mention every experience you should learn from it.
I did.
What did you learn from that?
I learned that look, you really need to, and I tell you what, as, our brother Harold Reed Jr. He said it the most. Last week he was so profound in his appearance here. You know, and I'm paraphrasing Robert, and perhaps you can help me. Is that what I learned is that uh, I'm gonna paraphrase that I can make an opportunity out of my missed opportunity. And I'm definitely paraphrasing that. And that what I learned is that this is how I'm going to do things differently. And I also learned to depend on myself. And that's why I went into business for myself.
All right.
So from there, and I think that if I had stayed with these other corporations, because I have other stories, the same thing, because in my situation, there are very few stockbrokers and financial advisors here in this country that are black. Okay. Now, there are a handful, or there are quite a few, but we represent, if I have to say, with my experience, 10%, maybe 15% of an economic driven society, a capitalistic society, and with the amount of money that black people spend. Okay, you take the wealth of black America, we could have our own little small country. Now, I'm not advocating that we do anything. I'm just saying with the amount of wealth that we bring in, yet our representation isn't as high as it should be, and it has to do a lot to do with our educational system. Because being a stockbroker, I would have families that come in, maybe 10% black, and their children would know about stocks and bonds and mutual funds and things like that. When other cultures came in, their children were aware. We need to do a better job teaching things outside of everything else, but we need to really start talking about economics. Okay, Robert just put a detail there. Percentage of black stockbrokers in the United States is 5.5%. You guys get my point?
Hmm. You ever heard of the Willie Lynch letter?
Yes, I have. Will you tell the audience what that is?
The Willie Lynch letter, paraphrasing here, is basically a letter that was written on how to break up the black family and to hide education. So basically, you hide the history in books and don't allow them to read it. You break up the family by taking away the man of the household and allow the woman to rule the household. So there is another roadblock there, because if you take away the man of the household, you don't have a strong foundation.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna need them to work as a pair. It's a two-parent household, and I'm not saying that a single-parent household is not great, but it's even better with a two-parent household.
Of course.
I have a question. With that, do you think that that is being enforced today with
The Willie
the,
Lynch letter.
yeah, the reason why I asked that is because
Ooh, this
of
is good.
what's happening in the school systems, especially down in Florida and other places as well. Because they say take the history and the knowledge out of the books. Well, as we all know, they don't want them to be teaching certain courses in these school systems anymore where the books are, you know what I mean? So they're trying to replace, real history with some sort of like falsehood, of some sort of like false ideology, if you will. You know what I mean? Like it's not real. So I kind of think that they're trying to, in its own like converted way, um, enforce that same letter, just in a modernized way.
Hmm. I think also, if you the way society has progressed so much, if you look at where we are now, there are more ways to skin a cat, right? You can take away the physical book, but we have something called the internet now. And you can look up just about anything you want to. So if you want to take away the books in the school, they still have an opportunity to do their own research or order the book on their own from Amazon or wherever else they want to. They can visit Barnes and Noble and also, be privy to the information in that book. But they have to also want to do that on their own to find out the information. There's a lot of things that has been discovered since the internet came into play. Just like I'm sure we learned about Lake Lanier, if I'm saying it properly.
Mhm.
You learned about Hidden Figures, the
Mhm.
women that helped NASA and helping NASA take flight to the moon, about all their calculations. When did we find that information out? How long has that information been available? But it was hidden. No pun intended, but it was hidden from us. But since the internet has came about, people are speaking out more, and you're able to learn things that you would never have thought of. Lake Lanier was a whole town that was buried by water, right? And unfortunately, people are dying, but that's a whole nother conversation. But there's a lot of things. Look at the Black Wall Street that was in Tulsa, Oklahoma. What happened there? We're learning about it. Look at Rosewood. Even though that was a movie, there was a lot of truth to that. But there's a lot of things that are coming out now that we are discovering because of the internet. So the resources is, yes, it's great, one, to be in a physical book, but there's so many other opportunities now that's available that we can do our own research and have the opportunity to learn.
I agree.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
that was a fantastic point there, Sister Rose. And just to touch base on what you was talking about, the black family and breaking up that strong foundation. That was the plight of our adversary a long time ago, to make sure they take that strong black man out of the family or make him feel less than. They was given nothing to slight our sisters and strong black women because I love them. I put them in a high esteem. But the thing is, they took the man. They didn't give him the opportunities to make a good living or to provide for his family. What they did in turn was to put our brothers and sisters that had a voice in prison, and that created the prison population. Then in turn, they was giving the women a little bit more in the workforce. So she came home and said, "Okay, I don't need you. I'm making more money than you are." So it put the women at the head of the household. So that kind of just broke the whole foundation right then. What did the men do? They felt like, okay, I'm not needed, so I'm gonna go out here and make my money the way I know how to make it. Wrong choices. All these things took a path to destroying the family. That is something that we need to understand. It was a plight in the first place to break us up. To the father wasn't in the house anymore. The young man, he had to grow up on his own or having to look at his mother to show him how to be a man. So all of these things was just out of sort.
I couldn't
So
agree more, Clayton. You know, and that's going to lead into uh, my next topic regarding our dear sister Rose and Matthew. And you're exactly right, Clayton. Everything you described was done by design. And once we realize, folks, this was a trick that has been played on our society, and it's by design. I can prove it, but I'm not going to get into that because I'm going to get into what something else. Sister Rose, like I said earlier, I had a conversation with her, and it was inspiring. It was also very interesting because Sister Rose, I would consider you a philanthropist
Oh, thank you.
because these are some other things, guys. We were talking about what she does on the workplace, but she does some other things that are quite fascinating. She's also involved in music, and I hope we have enough time to get into that. But let's talk about your work as a philanthropist. And most of you know, a person who seeks to promote the welfare of others, especially by the generous donation of money to good causes. So, uh, and it doesn't necessarily have to be money involved, but involved with helping, feeding, nurturing, teaching, and things of that nature. Sister Rose, tell us, did I feel based on our conversation, you're every bit of a philanthropist. Would you agree, and how so?
Well, I'm honored by being bestowed that title. um,
Yep.
I
And don't
I
forget
am.
where you got. Don't forget where you got it either. Okay.
Oh, okay. I won't forget. I think for me, as I was mentioned earlier, it's not about titles. I just want to be there to help people. Um, I'm a part of two other nonprofit organizations, in addition to Swing, and it's all about serving the community. Shirley Chisholm said, and I'm probably not saying the whole quote correctly, but community service is the rent that we pay to live on this earth.
Isn't it something?
So that is what I always strive to do, is serve the community. Um, and that's what I always set out to do. Even to this day, in respect to education, if I see a college age person, I will literally stop them and say, "Hey, I don't even know them," and I will spark up a conversation and ask them like, "What you doing right now? What grade are you in? Are you going to college? Okay, college is not for everyone. Have you thought about a trade? Because sometimes you can make more money in a trade than you can make, going to college, and
Hmm.
just kind of broaden their options. Maybe some may want to go into the military, and just having someone to explain. the opportunities that's available to them. Because just like going back to the opportunities that we were talking about earlier, if you don't know that a scholarship is out there and no one is telling you where to look for it, you're going to miss it. So it's important for us, all of us on this call, anyone listening, just not to gatekeep information and make sure you spread the wealth. And that is what I always strive to do. I
Mhm.
used to post scholarship opportunities. I got away from it because I got busy. Just making sure you passing on the information so that people can pay for college. It's expensive. I'm sure I don't even know what it is now. But I know when I went to school, I was saying it was expensive, and now I'm looking at people saying they owe hundreds of thousands of dollars
Oh, wow.
just for a semester. It's expensive now, and that needs to be regulated. But that's a whole nother conversation. Um, it is. But
It
in
is.
the same token, I think that as Black people, we have a tendency to gatekeep information, and we
Mm.
need to be a little bit more open and supportive of each other, and not try to be, unfortunately, crabs in a barrel and knocking each other down just to get to the top. We
That's
need
right.
to share the wealth, and that's a demise in our culture. We don't
That's
support
true.
each
What
other.
what good is it to keep the information to yourself anyway?
It's
Well,
You're the only one that knows it.
mm.
That doesn't make sense.
And do you know if you make an investment and not necessarily on a financial term, but if you make an investment in yourself, you make an investment in your society, it pays off. It
it
pays
does.
off. It does. It does have a trickle effect, and so we need to be aware of that. And I think in many ways, this program here is philanthropic because what we want to do, we want to share information that can be beneficial to the entire globe, not only grooves and swings, but also we have people that listen to us that aren't grooves or swings. And I get feedback each and every week. Love that program. I love that topic. And so my hat's off to you, sister, with the information. I mean, what you do out in the communities, not only with you. And you know, I tell you, that takes a lot of time. And you taking time away from your family, or from your family, or your work, or whatever it is. And I'm not saying I'm not sure whether it takes away or not. It may be. I'm sure it's something that you enjoy doing, but
Mhm.
it does take time. How do you find time to sleep?
I am always tired. That's the other key factor. I'm always tired. But you make time for what you want to do, right? At the end of the day.
Hmm.
So I do try to schedule out things and write everything down. Everyone knows I need it to be on my calendar because if it's not on my calendar, I'm gonna miss it. So I make sure it's in there. So you have to stay organized so you don't miss it. Because I'm a person that places great demands on myself. So I have to make sure I stay organized.
Right.
And with that, everyone else will be organized because they'll know what's going on as well.
Mhm.
Um, but the community service, most of the time it's like once a month that we do the community service, and I just try to make sure that it doesn't conflict with another one since I'm part of three nonprofit organizations.
Mhm.
I will say one community service that is my favorite community service that my chapter did before COVID. We still are participating in that community service, but not in person since COVID. And they've changed their policy. But we used to be the top chef at the Ronald McDonald House in Philadelphia, and basically we would serve a meal to all the families that were living in the Ronald McDonald House.
Mhm.
And if you don't know what the Ronald McDonald House is, basically there's a Ronald McDonald House nearby all of the children's hospitals across the United States of America. And basically they provide housing for those families while their children are undergoing procedures or surgeries or anything, just rehabilitation. And it offers them an opportunity to reside close by and be supportive to their child as they're going through their healing process, and also either at a low cost or for free, providing them accommodations to live there as long as they need to, and also with meals and everything. So that program offers us an opportunity to reach out to that community that's of need and just kind of put a little bit of joy in their heart, to see that there's a love out there and that people want to provide for them. Sometimes a nice cooked meal means monuments to people. They cherish that. So I really love that community service.
I love this. And I tell you what, I love that organization. I love the Ronald McDonald House and what they provide. And I think that is absolutely necessary. Can you imagine your child is going through something, and your family is going through something traumatic, and you're praying and you're hoping for your child? Someone to come in to help out with the expenses, because a lot of these families can't afford,
Yeah.
to do what needs to be done. And you have somebody to step in showing love and care. It is like my sister Emma says, she said, hey, Ronald McDonald's House is a blessing for many. And I couldn't agree
That
with
is
you
true.
more about that. That's incredible. And so, sister, my head is off to you with the work that you do. As a matter of fact, I've contributed before to the Ronald McDonald House because of that reason. Because I say, man, this is real stuff, and it need to be more. Whether it's Ronald McDonald's houses or whatever you want to call it, or whatever company. And wouldn't it be nice if so many multi-mega, and not even multi-mega, but your major corporations would contribute to something like that? To keep programs like that going. This is what humanity is all about. And humanity, to me, has taken a back step to what it used to be. And I'm not going to blame social media. I'm not going to blame the internet or anything like that. But I tell you what, people, especially in our community, seem like me, we really communicated a lot before social media. And I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna get off subject for a minute, but I remember when I left home, and if I didn't do something right, my mom got the phone call before I got home. Okay, the neighbors, everybody looked out for one another. Okay, you didn't have to have neighborhood watch. The neighbors were watching you, and so. But the thing about it, it also brought a closeness to our communities. And how many of us on the panel, and how many people listen to us around the world? Do you know your neighbors? A lot of people don't even know their neighbors. We used to know everybody on several blocks before us, behind us, several miles down the road, because people spoke. They communicated with one another. Okay. So, but anyway, let me get off of that. But I'm so proud of everything that you do. And I'm going to go around the panel because there's something else I want to talk about that you do also. And that has to do with music. But Tiffany, uh, what would you like to say to this wonderful sister?
Well, I wanted to, for those that don't know as well as myself, I wanted to ask you what, because we're talking about diversity and the whole DEI thing. Um, but in adjacent to that, what drew you to swing?
That's a good question. So for me, in joining Swing Fi Swing, it was not a difficult decision for me. I actually joined this organization during my freshman year, my second semester freshman year. I took college credits before entering college. So by the time I reached my second semester of my freshman year, I was technically a first semester sophomore. So that paid off a little bit. Um, so I was always the type of person that would never go with what everybody else was doing. I needed
Mm.
to find out for me what would be the best fit for me. I could have joined any other organization, but with Swing stood out the most. I definitely love the name, supporting women in need of growth, more on higher intelligence and Sisters of Interest Never Gone. That just stood out to me. It spoke monuments. And just to see how the sisters that were on the campus at the time at Lincoln University supported each other. And then you look and see the other organizations and it was not the same way. It was not so much. They were very distant, um,
Mhm.
and not very supportive of each other.
Mhm.
And that is something that stood out to me within swing. They never treated me like I was not a part of the organization, being attending their events and everything they had on campus. I never felt like I was not a part of the organization. I didn't feel like an outsider. They were very accommodative, um, to everyone that attended the event. Very nice people, and that's what attracted me to the organization. I made a list before deciding to join Swing, on a notepad, and said everything that this organization could offer to me and what I could offer to the organization. And I compared the pros and cons, and the pros won. So here I am. And that was my decision in joining this organization. I have five other siblings, so I wasn't looking for a sisterhood. I was looking for a group of women with like minded principles that had a mission and drive to support women of color and just uplift minorities totally. And that's what I was looking for.
Right. Hey, oh boy, I got to say this. My brother Barrett is listening. Hey, Barrett, how are you? My sister Emma and my brother Barrett is listening. So that is too cool. That is too cool. I tell you, Sister Rose, I joined Groove for the same reason. I went over at Virginia Union University, and there were the Qs, the Kappas, the Alphas, Sigmas, all of these cats, right? But it was something about Groove Fire Groove because Groove was a different organization. It was just, it was like down to earth brothers. Okay, I'm just gonna say this: Qs, Kappas, and Sigmas. These guys, they walked around, you know, love you guys, but you had your chest stuck out, like you were the stuff on campus. Groove, we were grooves, and if you wanted to go to a party, you went to a groove party. That's what you did, okay? You went to a groove party, and that was the whole deal. And I never looked back, never regretted pledging groove. What I have loved since then is that not only have we evolved from that party organization to a an organization also that's very much involved in philanthropy. I can look at my two brothers on the left and right of me, and my brother Robert that's in front of me. And I am so proud of these brothers. They get out, they get involved with the community, whether it has to do with food shelters, whether it goes, they clean up. My brother Clayton is it once a month they go out and they clean up a street. Now these gentlemen, they have their own careers and whether or whether they retired, they take time out and they'll go and pick trash up out of a street. Okay, they'll go out to shelters, food pantries, loading up trucks, distributing food, and doing various things in the community. They're involved in education. So many of our brothers around the country. So, Sister Rose, I was telling you earlier, and we were talking about this, about the various things that grooves and swings are doing around throughout the country and in different parts of the world. And I wanted to, along with Sister Rock and my panel here, we wanted to bring a message to the world as a collective unit. Grooves and swings out there doing things in the community, okay? Putting out the information, putting out or providing educational opportunities, inspiring people, perhaps giving them an idea on how they may be able to enhance or change their lives in certain aspects. So, anybody else want to say anything about this before I get into what else Sister Rose does?
Yes, I would like to chime in.
Please do.
now that I got a chance.
Oh, what do you mean? Now you got a
Because
chance.
my
What you trying to
brother,
say?
he
You
can
hogging the mic.
he can do this. Uh,
I don't
First and
believe this.
foremost,
I don't believe this. What do you mean I'm hogging the mic?
first and
You know
foremost,
what
I
that
like to.
means.
You see what I have to deal with, sisters and brothers. First and foremost, I'd like to thank my sisters at Swing Five Swing
Oh
Social
my God, I
Fellowship
love you guys.
Incorporated. I had the opportunity to collaborate with them again today. We were at Virginia State University at the Wellness Day, and we had Sister Geraldine Atkins, Shadora Jones, and uh, Cheryl Mango,
What's that again?
Claudia, and what's the other sister's name? I'm sorry, I'll get her name soon. But we were side by side, and we do this often. Geraldine, who we call twin because her sister was a swing as well, who passed away. She was an army officer, and Geraldine would call me and say, "Brother, we are about to do this. Will you join in?" And I said, "Sure," without hesitation. And the Wellness Day, it has something to do with sending out pamphlets and things that will help our youth at Virginia State with how are they doing, giving out brochures, giving out little tokens of appreciation to let them know that we are there for them and we are there with them. So, also, speaking of Ronald McDonald House, I'm very familiar with that because on every military base that I was stationed at that had a military hospital, there was a Ronald McDonald House there close by for that same very reason that they could family members could be there on their site. We fed them. We was able to help them out with their special needs. But going back to the groove swing, um, Geraldine called me for the doorways, which is at VCU MCV Hospital. They have a doorways where they allow the family members to stay overnight at this facility, and we were there.
Can't hear you.
Uh, try again, Clayton.
How about now? How about now?
I don't know how much of it that you missed.
You're good.
Are we
Okay,
good?
but that's because my brother had control of my volume. You see what I have to deal with?
No, you understand. Craig
But
was in the background making noise.
okay,
Go on, please. Please continue. Please continue.
thank you. Uh, but just to let you know that the swings and the grooves are working together on these things, trying to uplift our community as well. And I have to commend our sisters. I love them, and we're working hand in hand, and we're building this community together. Thank you, sisters. I appreciate you.
All right. Hey, Robert and Tiffany, before I go on, because I am anxious, I still have to bring in one more thing that our dear sister Rose, what she does. And guys, any comments on what Clayton said? Anything you've heard before? Any comments? Jump on in there because I'm anxious to get into this next topic here.
I'll probably say something here because one of the things that's also important in the communities that we live in and serve in and we love is making sure that we are politically active. When I say that, it basically means getting out to vote because that is your power, that is your voice, that is standing up for what you believe in for your community. It's also for standing up for what you want for your future in the community. Because when you vote, depending on what is on the ballot, the choices that you make doesn't necessarily affect just that one specific year. depending on the people that you vote in, they could have laws that could be on the books for years, decades, even generations.
That's right.
So the idea is what you think about now, you should also be thinking about your children, your grandchildren, your great grandchildren, because your vote, your voice is going to matter. With a lot of things that are happening right now, certain laws are in place, are going to be put on the books for many years down the line. Some, even our grandchildren, when they're born, they'll realize, why is this law in place? Well, that's because what you voted back then affected them now. So make sure you take the time to express your vote and make sure that you understand all the topics and also understand what affects you the most. It's 196 days until the 2024 presidential election. Your vote is your voice. Use it.
Couldn't agree more. Now, let me expound on that a little bit. And I couldn't agree with Brother Robert more. Not only the presidential election, make sure you vote in your city, county, and state. Folks, you have no idea how important those elections are. In many ways, they are just as important as the presidential election. There are so many things. There's a brother, is it in Alabama right now, that was elected mayor 3 years ago, and he still can't get into his office? Do you guys know anything about that story? This is a true story. There was a mayor that was elected in Alabama, and somehow the regime found a way to lock him out of his office. He can't get in yet. It's a shame. You have to
reading some information here.
Go ahead, brother.
Alabama town's first black mayor claims he's been locked out. Patrick Braxton alleges in a lawsuit his predecessor locked him out of New Bern's Town's Hall shortly after he took office 3 years ago.
3 years ago.
His quote is from Braxton: "I want to take my rightful seat, and I want to hold each and every one of them accountable for what they did." That's his quote.
Folks, we need to exercise our power. And Brother Robert says, look, your vote is your voice. When I talk to people, and we've been doing this for years, and we're going to continue this conversation because, like Brother Robert said, we have a 83 days. How many days left, brother?
196.
196. Okay, that gives us a little more time. Okay, we need to get this word out, and we're going to talk about this on this program because I promised everyone that when we started Groove Swing Speaks, we're going to talk about things from mental health. We're going to talk about education. We're going to talk about opportunities. We're going to talk about voting and voting rights. And when I come to a black person, because those are most of the people that I talk to about voting, and they say, "Oh man, I'm not going to vote." And I looked at them and I'm saying, "Women, I'm really ashamed because you have ancestors, your ancestors, my ancestors that died so you could have the right to do so, and you can't take 15 minutes to go on and exercise, like Brother Robert said, your voice." Oh, no. That's unacceptable. And if they still refuse to listen, then I've exhausted and pleaded, and they still refuse, then I'm walking away. I have to go to someone else that's going to listen and understand why this is so important.
Mhm.
This is so important. We must get out there and tell anybody. And if you have a relative that says, "Oh no, I ain't doing it," says, "Look here. If you want to be cut out of the will, don't vote. I don't care. Use whatever measures you have to, man, because this is so vitally important." And then you want to sit back and says, "Well, I can't. I don't have an opportunity. This is not there. Demand this." Guess what? Well, you part of the problem. If you haven't addressed the problem, then you're part of it. So we've got a few more minutes. Look, I'm going to change the subject right now. Sister Rose, you're going to have to come back if you will.
Okay.
If you will.
Okay.
But let's get into something. Let's get into something fun right now. Also, you're very much involved in music.
I am. What
You,
music?
music. Brother Craig, he's having a little panic attack here. Okay, he'll be okay in a little bit. But no, didn't we talk? Did I talk to you? Oh boy, no, I got my guests mixed up. Okay, I was talking to another swing sister earlier today, and she was involved in music. And I'm sorry, I'm getting my. Please forgive me.
It's
I was
okay.
talking to another sister earlier today, and she was talking about the things that she does, and it's related almost to what we're talking about now. But she also has a background in music, and we'll talk about that too. As a matter of fact, if you guys know any grooves or swings that are really into music, musicians or whatever it is, hey, tell them to come on this network because we're going to cover the gambit here. But let's go back to Sister Rose, and we've got about 15 minutes. What would you like to express or say to the panel, and maybe some areas and some things that we did not cover? The floor
Yeah.
is yours, sister.
I think when we were talking about opportunities, I think that people need to travel more
Oh,
outside of their state, outside of their neighborhood, outside of their state, outside of the country. Um, it helps cultivate you in different ways more than you can think of. When you experience different cultures and just traveling, you are opened up to see many different cultures, try different foods, and just experiences that you will never receive if you don't step off your block. So I think that that opportunity should be provided to everyone. If you have the opportunity to obtain a passport,
mm-hmm.
and it's expensive for a reason. Let's keep it there. But obtaining that information, making sure you have all your documentation that's underneath your grandma's mattress. Just make sure you have all that documentation so that you can go obtain your passport and travel. The world is ours. You have to explore it and just learn about different cultures. It will change your perspective in life and how you look at things. You yourself will be diverse in your thinking because of the exposure that you've had to various cultures. Growing up, my mom made sure that as soon as school let out, it would be June 15th. June 17th, we were on a plane to Antigua the whole summer.
Isn't that
And
something?
at first, I didn't understand it, but when I became an adult, I understood what she was doing. She wanted us to have exposure to our culture during the summertime, but also come back to the United States and be able to understand the difference between both cultures, but try to infuse them in our lives so that we will be stronger and impactful in the things that we did because we have an understanding of both cultures.
Mm-hmm.
And that also helps shape and mold me into the person that I am now, is because that I am understanding of those who are not from this country. I sorry, somebody's calling me. I have to be understanding of people who are not from this country and be empathetic to their needs. Sometimes there might be a language barrier working in HR that someone at first maybe you might have to write it down so they understand what it is that you're asking of them, and just be a little bit more patient because you understand, hey, this person is trying to get from point A to point B, but they're not going to arrive smoothly if no one helps support them. So that's the most important thing, that people need to explore their options and opportunity. I wish there was, I think I saw like it was a senator that was offering passport clinics just to present the pathway to obtain a passport, because it's not easy if you don't have the documentation. You know, if you need a social security card, you need your license, you need your birth certificate. People might not have that, you
Hmm.
know.
Hmm.
Um, so just obtaining that documentation so that you're able to fly. Um, Even if it's domestically, you can drive to the location and explore just to adapt to the different cultures and be exposed to the differences from your neighborhood to another neighborhood. That helps shapes you as a person so that
Hmm.
you're more empathetic. But a lot of people don't have that opportunity, and we should make that opportunity available more often.
I think that is absolutely important. You know, the first time I traveled out, the first time I went down to Mexico, uh, and then I had the opportunity to go to Greece, Italy, uh, let's see, Germany, Croatia. Let's see, what else? Oh my God, Turkey. And
Mhm.
you're so right. The cultures are different. Turkey, if you go to Turkey, okay, be prepared to find street vendors and hustlers, and they are aggressive. They
Mhm.
are aggressive. They are relentless in trying to sell their product, and that's okay. As a matter of fact, when I was a partner at an organization, I said, "Wow, I wish I could bring them back to the United States and have them work for me because they would not give up. They would
Mhm.
not give up." And I found it fascinating, but you're exactly right. And my brother Clayton, he's experienced and been around in foreign countries a lot more than I. And you want to expound on that and your experience and different cultures and tie into what Sister Rose was saying as far as that's an education in itself. And I know I'm paraphrasing.
Yes, that's one of the greatest educations you can have when you travel abroad because what you hear on TV, radio here in the United States, they're going to give you what they want you to know. I was stationed in Italy for 3 years, working for NATO. So I dealt with all 18 countries at the time that was under the NATO alliance,
Mm-hmm.
from Italy to England to Poland to Germany, Spain, you name it. And I had a chance to sit down with these gentlemen and women on a daily basis, work alongside them, and get to know them. And that was the greatest experience ever because the fact is, they taught me never to be closed minded and listen to all the noise that was going on in the United States because they would give you lies and find out that it was totally the opposite.
Mhm.
When these people would sit down and talk to you, they was the greatest people and most friendly people. They was willing to do for you that our own country wouldn't do for you. Because
Mm-hmm.
if you look back through our history, a lot of our black brothers and sisters they had to go overseas in order to make it. Where
Yeah.
England and France would give them opportunity where United States wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
So
Wow.
I can see a whole lot that's going on. And United States, they say this is the greatest country in the world.
Okay.
I would beg to differ.
Right. I think it's
I
a
think.
good country. I think it's a country that really needs a lot of healing. You know, and as a matter of fact, if you look at compared to the countries you just named, we are the youngest. And often they said the United States is an experiment. Have you guys heard that before, folks?
Mhm.
There's a couple of things that are true in life: good and evil, right and wrong. Okay, and my mother, Clayton's mother, she told us something. She says, "If you do right, right
Right will
will
follow.
always follow you. Right will always follow you." And so uh, you have a lot of things that comes with a capitalistic society. You have a lot of things that comes with uh, any society, folks. We're only as good as the people that's in it. Okay, and then a lot of times it has to do with what type of society you're in. If you're in a dictatorship, are you going to be governed differently? If you're in a democracy, you will be governed differently. If you're in some other, it is so amazing. The only thing and the only way that things can change if we make the change, and we can only do it one person at a time. And going back to what Brother Robert said, your voice, or your vote is your voice. And we've got to, if your voice is one of a positive nature, and we collectively go out and do what needs to be done, then we can change what's going on. Short of that, and we allow things to stay status quo, then we get what we got. Uh, we've got 5 minutes, 4 minutes. Sister Rose, the floor is yours. Sister,
What would you like me to say? Anything else?
whatever you want to say. And also, and now, do you have any books written?
No, I have
Okay,
not written any books.
okay, write one.
Right one. Okay. I have a story. I do have a story to
You
tell.
do have a story, and it's ongoing. And you've been such a delight here. Please come back.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
I hope my brother Craig didn't scare you off or anything like that.
No, no, no. He's fine.
He's,
He's
you have to
fine.
understand, I love jabbing Craig because he loves jabbing me. And you had the nerve, Clayton, that said we're the same kind of people.
Well, both of you love to talk.
Well, this is what I do. Can you imagine, Robert? Can you imagine a talk show with a host that doesn't talk? That doesn't work.
No,
He's
that doesn't
listening.
work.
He's
That doesn't
listening.
You got to keep the people engaged, and that's what we do. We love to keep the people engaged in the communities of where they live. Realize it could be all the way from Los Angeles to New York, as far north as Boston, as far south as Miami, and we're coming to Miami, just to let everybody know. So that's going to be happening in July 17th to the 21st. Make sure you follow us, be there, because definitely going to have a great time.
You're talking about the conclave.
Yes, I am.
Conclave, absolutely. Sister Tiffany, what you got to say, baby?
I just want to say I enjoyed tonight's session. Just reuniting with our sister here. It's been a pleasure, and hopefully it won't be as long.
Right, right. Oh, I have to. Sister Latoya, she was stuck because she's part of the panel too. Sister Rose, she's part of the panel, and she was stuck at work. She would be here along with brother Clayton, brother Craig, Robert, and Tiffany. Brother Craig, what would you like to say?
Well, I didn't get to say much tonight
Well,
because you hold the mic. But what I would like to say that growing up in the capital of the Confederacy here in Richmond, Virginia,
oh,
the George Floyd incident did one amazing thing in this city. It brought down a lot of Confederate monuments. We had one street that was called Monument Avenue, and it had about maybe 7 to 8 Confederate monuments to include the first Confederate president, Jefferson Davis.
Yeah,
Did they tear it down yet?
And they all have been removed.
they've been moved.
Good.
I
The
think
law-
almost every city experienced
Yeah.
that too.
And it should have been.
The largest one was the Robert E. Lee statue, which was the
Mhm.
largest statue of him in the United States. It stood 6 stories high. That was the last one to be removed,
Gone?
and that one caused the most confusion, protests from the Sons of the Confederate and a lot of those other people that want to hold on to history. But I would say that I thought I would never see it in my lifetime. But that was all due to younger people protesting.
Absolutely. Wow. You know, guys, I can't believe we're out of time.
As much as you talk, you can't believe that.
Well,
As much-
can I say something real quick? I just
Say
want to say
whatever you want to say, please, please.
it's been a pleasure speaking with you guys tonight. Thank you again for the invite, not only for today but to come back again. So we will see how our schedule permits for us to have another conversation. But it's been great speaking with you guys. I hope that everyone has gotten something from this conversation, whether to travel, talking about inclusive in diversity, DEI, just everything that we talked about here today, our culture, not gatekeeping information and providing opportunities to others, and just educating everyone on the available opportunities.
I can't thank you enough. I enjoyed, as a matter of fact, I had the pleasure twice. Okay. That's right. I'm special here. I had the pleasure twice of speaking to this sister, and it was quite a pleasure. And so she wanted to know, well, what are we going to talk about? I'm saying the who, what, when, where, and how. We're going to talk about you. We're going to talk about what you do, because what I found that this sister is absolutely remarkable. She's amazing. And sister, please, I sent you the links to how people can listen to this network. Okay. Mm-hmm. What I didn't send you is how they can go and look at this on YouTube. And that is Studio W, The Buzz. We got the kinks worked out on that. Studio W, The Buzz. They kind of messed up. And, I have to deal with Apple again, because the Apple app, those of you who have it, you got it. Okay. It's supposed to be Studio W.Buzz. They keep switching it back to the corporation, which is William Worldwide. And since they keep switching it back, I might have to leave it like that. I might have to leave it, because we are worldwide. Brother Robert, Brother Craig, Clayton, Sister Tiffany, and our special guests, Rose and Matthew. It's been an extreme pleasure. Anybody have anything to say before we exit?
Well, you're getting paid tonight.